Torah commentary in the movies. Today's presentation is dedicated to my oldest friend and sister movie buff, Dr. Holly Baggett. I'm a huge movie fan, particularly of movies made in the 1930s and 40s. As you know, I also love finding new ways of interpreting the Torah. I like to imagine the Torah as a movie made in that period. Movies and Torah have many things in common. Memorable characters, high drama. When movies are made, a good editor cuts many poorly shot scenes. And as much as the Torah tells us, there are many scenes that were left on the cutting room floor. After considerable consideration of this parsha's theme of civil disobedience, consciousness raising, and rebellion from within, sprinkled with a good dose of angelic intervention, I've come up with a suitable cast to tell my interpretive presentation of how baby Moses was saved from Pharaoh's decree that all baby boys should be killed. I have had the good fortune to find some of the missing scenes featuring various Hollywood actors. This was initially inspired by The Grapes of Wrath, which has in common with the Exodus story, oppressed people pushed out of their land due to famine, traveling to the promised land of California with the hope of a brighter future. In these two never-before-seen episodes, we hear the young prophetess Miriam pleading with her mother Yocheved to give her a baby sibling. The Torah tells us as much, but I bring to you today the missing conversation between mother and daughter. Production notes. Some of this presentation is informed by Midrash. One states that the handmaidens tell Pharaoh's daughter that she must kill the Hebrew baby boy. In order to save him, the angel Gabriel kills the handmaidens. In Exodus chapter 2, verse 6, she opened the basket and saw the child, and he was a weeping lad, and she had compassion on him and said, "This is one of the children of the Hebrews." There's another way to translate this verse. The word et that precedes hayeled, child, can mean with, resulting in, and she saw with the child the divine presence. To ensure that Pharaoh's daughter's compassion would be aroused, Gabriel strikes the lad so that he would cry loudly. There's an interpretive Talmudic reading of the word for handmaiden that means extending her arm. It works in this take since the dead handmaidens aren't available to bring the basket to Pharaoh's daughter. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs recounts the sweetest story in the first book of Chronicles, chapter 4, verse 18, to identify Pharaoh's daughter's name, Bitya, sometimes pronounced Batya, which means daughter of God. The Holy One, blessed be he, said to her, "Moses was not your son, yet you called him your son. You are not my daughter, but I shall call you my daughter." On with our show. As we read in the Torah, Pharaoh ruled that every Hebrew baby boy should be drowned in the Nile. Such a decree doused Amram's passion for his wife Yocheved. The midwives Shifra and Puah commit the first record of civil disobedience by making the flimsy excuse that the Hebrew slaves are so vigorous that they give birth before they can come to the mothers. Oopsies. Miriam, Yocheved's child, hears the message from above that the freedom fighter for the Hebrew slaves will be born to her family. She urges her mother to seduce her dad so she'll have a baby brother. "Please, Ma, I promise I'll take care of my baby brother or sister if you have a girl. You never know." "Oh, Miriam, I'm so tired from all the work I have to do, and you're wanting to add another mouth to feed when we haven't enough to eat as it is. Please, Mama, I promise I'll take care of the new baby. Pinky swear I will." "Now, Miriam, that's what you said about the cat. No, Ma, this here's different. I promise I'll look after this baby, 'cause he's gonna make you proud one day. He's gonna be special. You're gonna shep such nachas you can't believe. Well, look there. I see you've already been knitting a blanket for him. You seem so sure about this. Oh, I know. You just gotta have another baby, Mom. And I promise I'll look after him. I won't take my eyes off of him. Yocheved is hesitant, but she convinces Amram that they should have another baby. Don't ask how, this is a family-friendly movie. When the baby is born, Yocheved is surely vexed. She does the best she can to hide him and keep him safe. Miriam helps around the house as she'd promised. Comes the day that Yocheved sees she can no longer hide her newborn and must do something. With great faith and creativity, she fashions a waterproof basket that she copied from the Landsman catalog. Seeing the desperation in her mother's face, Miriam takes on the difficult, heart-wrenching task of putting the baby in the water. Don't you worry, Mom. I won't take my eyes off my little brother. I'll ensure his safety. I never did tell you this, but when you thought I was off playing with the other kids, I was scouting the area along the shore. I saw this beautiful woman dressed in fine linen, unlike how we dress, and she was surrounded by handmaidens. I figured she must be some kind of princess or something, so I kept quiet. Some plant tickled my nose, and before I felt it, I let out a loud achoo. She must have jumped out of my skin. What? She demanded. My, she seemed so angry. One of the handmaidens saw me and brought me to her. Oh, I thought she'd order me thrown into the dungeon or something. But instead, she was curious. What's that you have in your hands, little one? She says to me. And I told her, and I was thinking real fast, but it's a blanket. It's a magic blanket. She gets all curious, and I start telling her that I'll give her this here blanket to put across poles, so when she comes down to the water, she won't get too much sun in her face, because I noticed she's all squinching up her face, and I pointed out that all that squinching would make her prematurely age. Well, don't you know, we got to talking, and she got curious about who my people were that they'd raised such a clever and talented little girl. And, well, we became friendly like. And once I saw I could speak my mind truthful, well, I told her how badly my daddy was being treated, and my mama, too. I told her how we hardly had any food to eat, and we were whipped when we didn't produce as much as they thought we should. I could see that she was on my side of things. She didn't think it was right. Besides, she had her own problems with her daddy wanting to marry her off to some old mean pharaoh from I don't know where. Anyway, she told her dad, no way I'm going to marry him. And her daddy was powerful angry, he was. Hearing how we were being treated with such terrible labor condition made her even more angry. She was so nice to me, Ma. Well, I got to thinking she might have it in her heart to have feelings for my little brother. So, Ma, don't you worry. I got it all figured out. You put my brother in that basket, and sure enough, she'll take kindly to him. I just know she will. So, without hesitation, Yocheved put the finishing touches on the waterproof basket, kissed her tiny 3-month-old baby boy who she'd wrapped in the woven blanket she'd saved from her other children, and tucked him into the basket. I hope you know what you're doing, Yocheved said mournfully. Miriam did as she promised. The basket floated gently down the river, and she easily followed on shore, along the well-worn path she'd made with her previous visits with Pharaoh's daughter. With Hashem's help, the basket appeared at Pharaoh's daughter's bathing spot, just as her handmaidens were making their way to the water to set up the poles for the shade-giving blanket. Prior to the basket coming into view, Angel Gabriel struck the babe so he would cry as loudly as a young boy. Pharaoh's daughter heard the loud cry coming from the basket. "My Lord, who's making all that racket? That basket's only big enough to hold the small baby, yet it sounds like a grown-up youngin'." Pharaoh's daughter ordered the handmaiden to fetch the basket. The handmaiden said, "Oh, but miss, I don't know nothing about babies. And sides, don't you know your daddy done told us if we find any baby boys, we gotta drown them." Pharaoh's daughter hadn't heard about the decree to kill all the baby boys. "Now that is really too much, even for daddy. Oh, how could he do such a thing?" And as the Midrash relates, Angel Gabriel suddenly appeared to the handmaidens who refused to help. Due to his stunningly handsome good looks and charming smile, they all faint dead away. Pharaoh's daughter takes the opportunity to jump into the water and extend her arm to grab the little baby. "Oh my, it is just a tiny infant. Oh, but such a glow, Lord Almighty." The angel quietly snickers to himself. He's accomplished his goal. Angels always do. "Now just look at me, I'm all wet. But I just couldn't resist this little one. Such a magnificent glow around him, such a shining face. Why, I can hardly look at him, he's so bright. Well, I guess you're mine now. And since I went to the great effort to jump into the water and get my new dress all soaking wet, I guess I'll call you Moses, 'cause I drew you out of the water." She tries to find a suitable wet nurse for baby Moses, but he refuses to take to anyone. Miriam says, "Well, now, don't you just know, I just happen to know a woman who lost her baby, and she'd be mighty glad to nurse this here little un." "Really? Oh, Miriam, how can I ever thank you? You've been such a help to me. Now that I have a baby to raise, Daddy won't leave me be. I don't know what life will be like living as a single mom, but I have faith that everything will all work out just fine." According to tradition, there were 9 people whose righteousness gave them entry into paradise in their lifetime. Pharaoh's daughter was one of them. We must bring Pharaoh's daughter out now to take a much-deserved bow. Without her kindness, none of us would be here today. And so ends a once unknown chapter of our story, brought to you by Aleph Tatab, makers of everything for the Hebrew slaves' home, especially pitch and bitumen, the best waterproofing for your runaway baby baskets. This production would not have been made possible without the technical know-how of the brilliantly talented Ruby Siblo Landsman, photographer, archivist, and filmmaker extraordinaire.